you chose to go a separate road, that's your decision. Not if you chose to go a separate road, that it's my decision that you're going to burn in hell. There must be some other option than heaven. That's my definition of free. You can't say, what if you don't want heaven and you don't want hell? Because you don't want to follow this person who doesn't even show themselves to us, who went through a bunch of prophets who he says are older than the rest of us, to write down a book that is centuries old, that probably has a lot of mistakes in it for translation anyways. We're supposed to follow this person? And if we don't, we go to hell? He hasn't given us much to follow on. And if he wants us to be skeptical, he couldn't have done a better job for us to be skeptical. He doesn't show himself, he doesn't show anybody, except for the prophets that are better than us, who have the God's touch or whatever, who wrote the Bible. How do we know they weren't crazy people? How do we know that?
The question is an historical one. Did Jesus really die on a cross, and did he really rise from the dead? That's an historical question.
And where is it based in history besides the Bible?
Josephus, the Jewish historian, refers very clearly to Christ as being an historical person, that he died on a cross, and that he has supposedly risen from the dead.
Supposedly.
The Gnostic Gospels, many other Gospels, many other writings talk about Jesus. The Epistle of Barnabas, the Shepherd of Hermas,
and we're all these
Gospel of Thomas. There are many different sources that talk about Jesus as a real person that are not in the Bible. He claimed that he died on the cross for our sin. That was his claim. Now, why should we trust him? Because the evidence of the way he treated people with such compassion and integrity, the evidence of the content of his ethical teaching, the evidence of the way he died, forgiving people at the moment of his most excruciating pain, nailed to a wooden crossbeam, but most importantly, the historical evidence of his resurrection from the dead. That's why we should trust him when he says, I died on the cross for your sin. I mean, ma'am, I promise you, if you die and rise from the dead, I'll listen very closely to everything you have to say. All right? It's that simple. So if the historical evidence points to Jesus really rising from the dead, that's why we better trust him when he says, the reason that I died on the cross was to pay the penalty for your sin. That's why I trust him.
The Good Samaritan. That parable of the Good Samaritan. Now, the word Samaritan, take it and replace it with the word rejected. And the word good, take it and put the word God, because there is no one good but God. This is the Holy Bible telling us so. There is no one good but God. So good means God, Samaritan means rejected. The Lord Jesus spoke to the Samaritan woman at the well. That Samaritan woman was rejected by her society. So the word Samaritan means a stranger, rejected. So good Samaritan, God the rejected. Now why was God rejected? Because he came to dwell with men who have forgotten him. Well, obviously, since they have forgotten him, they have rejected him. When you forget about someone, you have rejected that someone. That's why the Lord Jesus was rejected even by his own people. And he's rejected by the world. Why? Because they still chose to be men. They still chose to be sons of forgetfulness. They still chose to say there is no God. We don't care about God. Or yes, we believe there is a God, but we will not adhere nor be submissive to his will. So they remained men. That's why when God came, he was rejected by those who have forgotten about him. Now, but God still came. Why? Because love, no one can stop. No one can stop.